All right, Paul. Thanks for sending the flag. This is video for your eyes only. I'm going to post it on YouTube, but only a person with the link can access this video. It's kind of like the videos I do and put on Patreon, and then when you go, if you're not on Patreon and you go to YouTube, you don't see them. Only the patrons can see them. So hopefully you won't be concerned about that. It'll just be, again, your eyes only. First of all, fit and finish of the flag. A couple of things I noticed. Well, I mean, first thing too is making sure that the hole you have fits the established hole diameters of most poles. That's going to be important because if someone wanted to use your flags or replace, use your stand and your pole, having that standardized is good. This happens a lot, at least at the matches I go to, where sometimes, you need to borrow a stand, or certain benches on the far right or left or whatever have certain weird things that you have to have a higher flag, and you lend one out to somebody. So that diameter is going to be important if that's a consideration for you. Some of the things like the hole wasn't centered. Kind of same thing here with this rod. The hole was off center. So those are just some fit and finish things. There was some stuff over here. I don't know what that is. You can see the kind of breaks where it folded in. I see just cut a slit and fold it in. Those breaks had some gaps in them. So in terms of like fit and finish, those were the things that I noticed. I realized too that this was supposed to be down so that when this thing goes down, it doesn't hit the pole. But what happened was I set it outside for about 2 hours, and it was, I would say, mild to moderate wind. I mean, I could see the trees moving, so it was probably 5 to 8 with occasional 10 to 12 mile an hour gusts. And what ended up happening after sitting out there for 2 hours, it actually like moved the flag. Like, so it was now oriented this way when I went to go grab the flag. So you probably have to figure out a way to, and that's difficult because you have to slide this rod back and forth to get the balance that you need. So anyway, so just there's probably the side wind hitting it and just turning it basically. So for that, and then you get, once that happens, then you get it sticking there. Okay. So figuring out some way to not let that happen is a big deal. The other thing that I noticed too was it was extremely difficult to balance. I mean, I have flags that I've had to balance before, so it's not like I haven't balanced a flag before. This up-down one in particular, I've had to balance. But what I found interesting was when I did balance it. Then in here in this environment, got everything balanced. Went out there after, like I said, a couple hours of wind, mild to moderate wind with some gusts. Again, it turned to this, and then it's no longer balanced. So I don't know what the deal is with that. It's now just showing up. It could be because of this, maybe. Here, let me push that forward. Get out of the way. Nope, it's going back up. Let me push this back. Going up even more. So yeah, so that I was like, well, wait a minute, I balanced that thing. Why is it now kind of sticking up? So there's something in the system that's not locking it in place basically and allowing it to maintain balance. So anyway, those were the things. One other thing, the tape is good. I love this tape. It's very light. It definitely shows the wind. So the tape's good. The string is going to deteriorate, and so what I use, I use these, what are these called here? These it's like a cheap rivet tool. It's not the high end rivet stuff. That stuff's expensive. This was cheap. I got this tool for probably less than $10, and it'll give you these metal rings that you can just shoot into. Yeah, well, like you can see here on my flag, it has these metal rings there. And then what I do is I hold them in place with these fishing, I don't know what these are. I haven't not been fishing in probably 10 years. Lures? No, they're not called lures. I forgot what these are called, but anyway, we used a metal contact for that area with, you know, a metal ring, so it's durable. There's nothing that's gonna like come off or wear out for that. So that's one thing with this section here is durability with, you know, a solid ring. Let's see. So here's the big, I think, things that I noticed when I watched all three of these flags all going at the same time. I will say directional wise, left, right, this flag did do what this flag did in terms of moving with the direction of the wind. So functionally it did that well. So I got to definitely give credit to that. What I did notice, though, and I'll show you this video. I'll actually put the other video on YouTube too and make it for you only. I'll send you two links, this video and the video of them out in my front yard. And what you'll notice is this up down flag may have been up and then yours was down. Okay, and it's not that there was a differential draft going on. There was an updraft in that area completely, but yours went down, this one went up. And alternatively, there were times where yours were up and this one was down, okay? Now, and they were pretty much right next to each other, so we're not talking about like, oh, well, it's detecting a different draft or a different wind. It's not. What it was, and what I think is going on, and don't quote me here because I'm not, you know, an expert on wind or anything like that, but I think it was a side wind was hitting and probably pushing it down. Like it was hitting this area, side wind was hitting it, and then the wind has to go somewhere. It doesn't just splatter and come back. It usually kind of finds the path of least resistance, which if this thing is angled a little bit, may be down, and that what may have pushed it down, okay? Because this thing is moving, it's and then let's say it's this way and the wind is coming this way, then maybe it's pushing it up and kind of bouncing up. So I think that was a major issue. That was the biggest difference that I found, was that this design is going to be influenced by the different effects of the winds hitting up here, or even if it turns here, hitting there and going up. And it may show an updraft when there may be a down, or it may show an updraft when there's no up or down draft. So that's why I think that this design in and of itself is just simply problematic. The other thing too is it started to rain a little bit. It started to drizzle just a little bit out in the front yard. I deal with rain, you know, I live in the Pacific Northwest, typical drizzles, but once in a while we get a storm and it rains pretty heavy. What happens is this flag becomes completely useless because the water just slumps it down. And so what you see is just you're out in the field and it is completely down like this the entire time. So I fear that if this flag gets rain on it, it's just going to slump down, which is going to like basically destroy your ability to have any up down. And then when it's moving right or left, it's going to be visually hard to see now that it's like slumped down. Like if it's at this angle, you barely won't even see it, you know, it's like, but if it's out here and it's sloping up, you're visually at that angle, you can see more. So my other concern is that in the rain, this thing is going to just be, I don't want to say completely useless, but definitely be far less functional than if you had just something like this, where it's not influenced by the rain. Okay, and then the other thing too I noticed was the daisy wheel. It was just too information overload is I guess the only way to describe it. I mean, I'm pretty good about interpreting multiple channels of information. I used to do human factor studies, you know, and I you know was able to train my brain to kind of look at like 6 or 7 visual things and integrate them. But honestly, you know, and I'm getting old, so it's probably degraded by this point, but it just seemed like too much. It was like, this was moving, this was going up and down, this thing was moving, and just looking at it just had a visual overload effect on me. And then I kind of moved it out of the way, and then I just put these two kind of next to each other, and I watched them, and it just seemed easier for me to interpret, like, okay, it's going right, it's going left, okay, there's a slight updraft or there's nothing. It was a lot easier to look at two separate things sitting next to each other and interpreting that information than it was looking at this thing, which is kind of like information in this one little area and lots of it. This thing spinning, this thing moving up and down, these flags going out. So the only way I can describe it again is like information overload. It just felt like there was too much to watch there. So, so if I had to like, you know, redesign it, you know, I would definitely pull this off. It was just it was too much with this. With this off, and actually I could probably pull it off. It looks like, yeah, it looks like there is a nut in there I can pull out and yank it off. But that is certainly something that I would do, is probably take off that. It really didn't give me any more information than I already knew, because the intensity of the wind was, the tassels were telling me the intensity of the wind. This thing didn't really offer any kind of, actually any information. It just spun, and I was like, I don't know what, okay, it looks cool spinning, but it's not telling me anything that I'm not already seeing from this and from the directional stuff from here. So anyway, that's my feedback on it, is probably two major design issues. You know, in one, it's going to be impacted by the air hitting this and going down, or hitting this and going up, and it's going to not detect your up and down drafts correctly. It's going to sort of show you the wrong information, essentially. Like I said, I'll show you this video. You can see clearly when this one is like going up and this one was like down, and it was the same wind. There was no difference in the wind there. So I think that functionally, that's probably the biggest design flaw. And then the other thing too is when it rains, it's just going to sag. And then the other thing is this thing. This thing here was just information overload. Again, I don't know, maybe you could tell me, but I have no idea what additional information it was supposed to be telling me to begin with. I know there's shooters out there that have daisy wheels on their flags, but I've looked at their flags before and used them for information. I never really got anything from the daisy wheel, so I'm not sure. But I'm not everybody. Maybe you all see something in there that's unique that I don't. Let me know. Be happy to hear about it. Anyway, so there you go. I'd say that's the critical review there. I'd honestly just kind of, straightforward with you. I would never use it in a match because it would just give me false readout of any up or down drafts. Again, the right to left was functional and good. It was showing me that, but the up and down drafts, again, because of the wind hitting those sides and changing the directions, it wasn't detecting them correctly. So I would not use it in a match for that particular reason. All right, Paul. Thanks, man.